Armstrong. Welcome here and welcome to everyone that's here. I'm the co-chair of the Education Subcommittee of the Connecticut Commission. And what we're going to be doing today is sharing some educational resources with you that are available on the America 250 website. Plus, we will be having two webinars in probably one in mid-April and one in mid-March and one in early April, giving folks some specific strategies on how to teach America 250, the Constitution and the Declaration, specifically on how to connect those to the present day. So that will be two webinars coming up March, April, and we'll get the information on those out to you. But the main purpose of today's session is for some sharing of some educational materials that have been created by CT Humanities staff. And Khalil, I'll throw things over to you.
Thanks, Steve. My name is Khalil Kotap, and I am one of the educators on staff here at Connecticut Humanities. Myself and Misa Giroux have been working on putting together resources for the America 250 Commission, as well as for our own websites, giving out a lot of education material. So I'm going to go through a small presentation, kind of going through some of the materials we've created, some of the programs that we're working with to give people options that are looking for things to do in education. Cindy, do I have permission to share? Just want to make sure. Okay. Should be good. So these resources have been created over the last few months. Misa did the bulk of the work, and I'm working on presenting these out. So thankful for her for doing a lot of the work and pulling this together and working with the subcommittee on getting the materials together. So a little bit about 250th. This summer, we're going to be celebrating 250 years of our country and signing the Declaration of Independence. We want to make sure that it's a lot of the materials that we're creating and have been working with have focused around that period of time. But the 250 years since then, there's a lot of other material that kind of connects to our history. So we want to make sure that we're not kind of staying in one specific area of time, but focusing on the full 250 years of history. And there's a lot of ways to make those connections. You'll see some of these materials within our guide that I'll be talking about will focus on the period of time during the Revolution, but a lot of the materials that we've kind of compiled since then kind of run the gambit from then till now. So it is organized. Our projects are organized under four main themes for the 250. The first theme that we'll talk about is telling inclusive stories. One of the things that we look at is when we talk about social studies and when we learn about social studies, a lot of the projects and teaching materials center around politics and the formation of government. That is really important, and that's a big part of social studies as a whole. But one of the things we want to make sure is that there are other perspectives and other stories being told. So telling inclusive stories deal with sharing stories that represent people from the past and the present, as well as previously untold stories. They can be untold for a number of reasons. It doesn't have to do just with being one person or one specific thing. But looking at the revolution, looking at the history of our country from a lot of different perspectives gives us a fuller story overall about our country and our state of Connecticut. So some of the essential questions we came up with for this one are: what stories remained untold in your community? So it pushes students to look towards their community, talk to people in their community, look at the cultural institutions in their community, to kind of find out some of those things that might be missing when they learn about history, um, whose voice have been heard in the past. Usually they say that history is told by the winners, but not all of the winners. So, how do we change that? How do we add in more voices to those stories that we're telling? Why have those voices that we have heard been elevated and which ones haven't been? Um, and then how can this be an opportunity to find something new in your community to kind of lift up those other voices that maybe haven't been heard? Um, they might not have been heard just because of technology. Today, there's a lot of noise, there's a lot of ways for people to get their messages out and for people to hear them. If you go back 250 years, you might have to dig through town records. You might have to look at old letters. You might have to look at old journals. And that takes a lot of time. And our cultural institutions have a lot of materials that not a lot of people have seen. And so this might be an opportunity to reach out to some of those institutions and get them to open up some of their materials to get some new history out there about your town or your city. Another important theme for us is the power of place. There are 169 towns. Inside of those towns, there are also smaller sections that have identity that people kind of identify with. We have 5 recognized tribes. We have smaller communities, cultural communities. They have unique identities and contributions. Um, this invites students and teachers to learn more about the place they live. Look at the events that happened, look at the people that were part of those communities in the past, who is part of them now, how have those communities changed? Um, why have they changed? So this really pushes teachers to really help students learn about where they live. It not only helps them through history, but it helps them with their geography skills. It helps them with their local history skills. It gives them a lot of different ways to engage with their students. So this one kind of can be done, all of these can be done with any age group. We see a lot of teachers doing this at the younger grades where they're learning about their community, and it touches with first and second grade and kindergarten, learning about your community and how you can impact it. So this is a really important theme that kind of runs through kindergarten through 12th grade. So there's a lot of opportunity there for teachers to use and different ways to use it. Um, Another theme, our third theme is doing history. We see this, while it can be used with the younger grades, we see this used more so in grades 5 through 12, especially when you're looking at working directly with primary sources. While younger students do have the opportunity to do it, some of these things can be a little harder to interpret, especially when you get into some of the journals and diaries from the past. They might need help learning cursive. We know even high schoolers have trouble reading cursive. Adults are starting or losing that skill in education. So we see this a lot more when we're looking at primary source work, and a lot more research-based stuff when we get into 5th grade and above. And it shows what goes into creating these cultural institutions, these exhibits, talks, gatherings, different community contributions to history. And so it gets them to do a little bit more work academically with the materials, looking at how history is different from the past. So there's a compare and contrast there, working with persuasive writing and opposing viewpoints, looking for primary sources. Where can you find them? How do you use them? How do you evaluate them? I think that's a very important part of this theme that we're working with is evaluating primary sources and how they're used, meeting students where they are. We're in an age of AI and the internet, and social media. and how can students and how do people in general get influenced by those things? How do you find information? How do you sift through information? So this is a lot of work in that realm, and it might connect to them, especially as you get into the teenage years and they're a little more active in the social media world. And it could be an opportunity to talk about how AI works and how it can be used as a tool versus used as a primary generating content machine. Um, there's a lot more to talk about that, and I'll leave it to teachers to figure out how to have that conversation. Um, and where do you find your sources? And so again, we're a lot of these themes push back to our local cultural institutions around the state that we work with, and really hoping that teachers engage more with those places because they have such a wealth of knowledge, and a lot of them are volunteer run, and they don't have a lot of staff. So getting teachers involved with them also offers support in some ways, to get their messages out there, to get their materials out there, um, and get them out to more people. So this one, I think this one is really getting to the core of doing a lot of the work that historians do and these cultural institutions do, and then how do we build out more support for them going forward. So there's a lot of good things in this one. And our final theme is for the common good, and this looks at civic engagement within your communities. Um, this can be used, especially when we're looking at the higher grades, looking at how people, how groups, how movements have influenced the change of history in our towns and our cities. But it can also be used at the lower grade level, and looking at you and your community and looking at the community connections that our younger students make, how they work, who are the people that make the rules in our communities, who are the people that uphold the rules in our state and our community directly. How can those understandings of our government and how it works impact how you interact with it? Um, and the question, the final essential question that came out of this discussion with our subcommittee was, how do we determine who is an American? And when we look at that as an essential question, it's more impactful today, I think, than it has been in a very long time in our country. And these are harder questions sometimes when we look at these things, and you're going to have some of these harder conversations. You know your students better when and where to use these type of questions and how to engage with them. But as we're looking for more civic engagement with our youth, and how it's been changing through time, this might be an opportunity for you to show the power of civic engagement, how it's worked in the past, how it's changed, again, with all the different platforms and opportunities to get your voice out there. That is today. So it's an opportunity to not only teach about the past, but meet your students where they are today. So there's a lot of opportunities within these four themes. You're going to see me refer back to these themes as I go through the rest of the presentation. They kind of go back and forth between them, looking at the resources that we have, some of the lesson plans that we've created. I'm not going to go through every single one of them. I will talk a little bit about them. I'll go in depth on a couple of them, but I'll provide links and opportunities for you to get to them and see them firsthand. Um, I'll just stop for a second because that was a lot and see if there's any questions in the chat. Okay,
But Khalil, could I just say one thing?
sure, please.
That I kudos to you for mentioning that. People speak of modern forms of information gathering and giving always in negative ways, which in some ways are valid. But I think when you're spot on that what these new forms of communication definitely provide alternative ways for civic engagement, right?
Yeah,
It's really
yeah,
allows kids to do things that they could never do before.
yeah. And I think it's a way for teachers to kind of reframe some of their lessons, to make it a little more impactful. If you can show those connection points, if you can kind of understand where the students are coming from and how they talk to each other and how they talk to the world, it might give them a way into this that isn't a traditional way to get into things. So, yeah, absolutely. Um, So our educator resources, we've built out a whole web page. There's QR codes and links in here for everything. So I'll go through them, talk about them, and then at the end, again, it'll link back to it. Um, so there are different ways for teachers and students to get involved with the 250, the anniversary. One of the ways that we're looking at is for working with the local history project. Um, there are a few different ways for teachers to that are, let me start that over again. There are a few different ways for teachers to get involved with the local history project that are already developed. There are three current programs that are running. One of them is being a red, white, or blue school. So doing it through there is one way to be involved and show off the work that your students are doing. Another statewide program is Connecticut Kid Governor, which is up and running. That's another way to get involved that's run by the Connecticut Democracy Center. And another way for it to keep going is for to be involved in Connecticut History Day, which again is run by the Connecticut Democracy Center. So there are a lot of different options for you to get involved with this. You don't have to go directly through one of these programs necessarily to be involved in this. On the website, there are ways for you to engage with this if you're a teacher and want to show off your school projects, students individually. There is a sign up sheet that is there that'll get your students' work recognized. You can also work with one of your local commissions to maybe have a exhibit day in your community to show off the projects of the students of your local schools. On our website, there are guides available for educators, how to be involved, how to use classroom materials, how to get involved with this. We also have guides available for historical societies that maybe don't normally or do normally welcome students into their spaces, but how do they get involved and how do they help teachers do a project like this? And there's also a guide for our local committees. So if you're a chair or one of the members of our local committees or want to bring this to your local committee to be used, you can bring the guide and how they can help you and your classroom get involved in the local history project. Um, we're also here as an education resource. So if any of these places have any questions, we're happy to help. If you have questions on how to welcome students in, things like that. So we can also kind of offer some guidance at least there. Um, we also have on the educator resource page, in addition to those materials that are there, we created a guide. So let's pop over, see, did the website pop up? Okay. Just making sure. So you can see we have our educator resources with our local history project and the guides that are here. We have all of our curriculum, which I'll go through in a moment. We also have all of our other resources from field trips, organizations, programs, everything's on here. So that's the resource page. Thank you, Cindy, for putting that in the chat. Go back to the presentation. So within this guide, this educator resource guide is a PDF. It is broken into four sections, one for each of the four themes. There are four lesson plans total in this guide. There is one for third grade, one for fifth grade, one for eighth grade, and then one for high school. Each lesson plan tackles a different theme. Third grade is power of place. Fifth grade is telling inclusive stories. Eighth grade is doing history, and high school is for the common good. Each one of those lesson plans is broken up into different parts. Um, gives you how much time this lesson would take if you did it. Gives you learning objectives, connects to the Connecticut State Social Studies standards and frameworks, gives you the materials that you'll need, gives you a step-by-step procedure, opportunities for assessment, gives you primary sources, images, documents, and also organizers to do these pieces of work. And there's three different options for download. You can download the entire guide for third through high school as one PDF, as a Google Doc, or as a Microsoft Word file. And then each one is broken down by grade level. So if you're a third grade teacher, you can just download the third grade, fifth grade, eighth grade, and high school. Although these are all tailored to a specific grade level, because the themes are kind of cross over all different disciplines of social studies, you can adapt some of these. You can definitely adapt the lower ones to a higher level. It would take a lot more work to go from a high school level to take it down to an elementary level. But looking at how they're built, you can certainly kind of age them up if you need to. Just one example, for our eighth grade one, it takes a look at Benedict Arnold, under the theme of doing history. And it definitely takes a look at that compare and contrast of historical evidence to look at how their stories differ from one perspective to another. We have an example of some of the primary sources on here, as well as some of the organizers that we have. It kind of pushes students to look at multiple sources because if depending on what you're reading and how you're reading, and also how they're getting their news, um, looking at this, it is a lesson plan in a can. You can just do this on its own. It also offers the opportunity to look a little bit deeper. For example, in the case of Benedict Arnold, specifically, the New Haven Museum has an archive on his on newspapers from that area, so it can look at his impact on the Connecticut community, being from New Haven and having an impact there. And then you can look at how he was written about in the New London papers. So there's a lot of different ways to look at him from different perspectives, and to expand past what the lesson plan offers. Um, our high school level, looking at for the common good, Lemanuel Hayes, um, looking at the ideals of freedom and liberty, diverse perspectives, and how he used the Declaration of Independence, looking at equality and justice in our state, for Black and former enslaved people in the state. There are a lot of materials to look at how using current um, legislative works, how using words of politicians can impact the message that you send out. So again, gives you an example of some of the primary sources that are available within here, as well as some of the organizers that we have. So these lesson plans are really well rounded. They're really well researched and done. Misa and the committee did an amazing job putting these together. Um, I'm happy to be able to present on them. And it gives teachers at least a baseline to kind of start with some of these themes and idea on where to go when you're looking at this. And again, third grade is the power of place, so looking at you and your community. Fifth grade is looking at women during the revolution. So they're and telling inclusive stories. So there's a lot of thought and a lot of primary source work that's put into these lesson plans, as well as organizers that you can use for multiple lessons in anything you're teaching. So it gives you these really good ways to kind of organize students' thoughts and help them kind of organize their own thoughts, and talk about these topics that you can use over and over again. So even if you do these lessons, you might be able to pull out some of these resources and use them in your classroom on a regular basis. So that's the packet altogether. Um, Additionally, on the page, on the educator resource page, we also have a section for field trips. This is not by any means an exhaustive list of institutions that offer field trips within the state, but these are the ones that submitted their field trips to us to put on the website. If you're at a cultural institution and want your field trips on there, please take a look at this page, and you'll see how we have it classified by grade and um, and any titles of field trips that you might have. And we're happy to add them. We want to grow this. We want to make this a more usable resource for teachers to go to. Um, the Connecticut Museum, the Mark Twain House, the New Haven Museum, Institute for American Indian Studies, the Mattatuck, Mystic Seaport, Fairfield, the Connecticut Democracy Center. Some of these museums, about five of them on the list, are working on civics programs right now. I believe it runs through the end of this school year that they're still offering free or reduced price civics based programs at their institutions. Um, and there is bus reimbursement to an extent to some of these. So check with them on some of these programs and see if they have any room. It's January, so their time, especially for the spring, is booking up very fast. So if you're interested in it, I would reach out to them directly as soon as possible. As well as some of these museums also and cultural institutions also offer um, in classroom field trips, so outreach field trips. So they will come to your classroom if busing or time is a factor for you and you can't get to them, they will come out to you and they'll be happy to come to you and bring as much as they possibly can out to your institution. And then at the bottom it says programs, and those are the programs I mentioned earlier, Kid Governor, the Local History Project, as well as Connecticut History Day and Red, White, and Blue Schools. So it has links to all of those things as well as how to get involved with them. We at Connecticut Humanities offer two platforms for teacher resources. The first one is directed directly towards teachers. I believe there's over 100 lesson plans for and growing on Teach It as a website. Hop over there. So it is organized by grade. It is also organized by topic. So there's a lot of different ways to kind of maneuver through this website. On the teacher resource page, we pulled out a few lesson plans for different grade levels that directly connect to the themes for America 250. But you'll see if we take a look at our third grade, I'll just pop in there. You can organize by theme, topics, and towns. Each lesson plan gives you a snapshot of the big ideas, the grade level, where it takes place. These are written by teachers and educators. It has a lot of materials in there based on our Connecticut State Social Studies framework and standards. It has notes. We are building these out and changing these to be more teacher friendly. These are really well researched, really well thought out, gives you supporting questions, activities, opportunities for assessments, primary sources and organizers, as well as additional resources that you might need for each of these lesson plans. We're building these out right now to include more quick hits, quick lesson plans you can grab and go if you have a sub or if you need a quick topic here and there. A lot of lesson plans that we're currently in development for are looking at the themes for the 250 and are directly connected to the 250 themes that look at, do I have it here? No, I'll pull it. Oh, here they are. Quick facts about Connecticut. So we have our quick facts about Connecticut, these little quick things that we think our students should know. really easy things. What's our motto? What's our state seal? Where's our state capital? And so we're developing our quick lesson plans around these things. And we're hopefully that these will get a lot more teacher interaction because they're really easy. They're usually one classroom or one class period or two. They're really easy to do, talk about local history, get kids involved in their towns. So that's kind of where we're putting a lot of our effort right now in building those out. So if you have any questions about those, we're happy to answer any of that. Um, and as they go, we really do need teacher feedback. So if you have ideas, if you have topics, if you have suggestions, um, good or bad, because we understand that teaching is changing, especially since COVID, and we're online more and we're doing a lot more work with digital tools and digital options for students. These are a lot more hands-on, and so we want to make sure that we have a wide range of availability for materials for students to use. So however we can be a little more nimble and a little more engaged with where teachers are and what they need for their students, we'd like that. So please, any feedback that you can provide, we're welcome and open to that. Um, and then finally, our other resource is Connecticut history. It has grown and changed over the last decade or so. Um, it comes from, it goes, runs a gamut from telling Connecticut stories to being Connecticut encyclopedia to being a resource for research for students. We're working on making this a lot more accessible to teachers and students. So again, feedback, ideas, we're open to those. It is organized by, pull this up, towns, topics, errors, and people. So it's easy to navigate here. As you go a little bit deeper, there's a lot more information on this site that students and teachers could use. It's a really good starting point. It's a trusted resource. We have a lot of academics and historians that work on this and help us create some of these articles. So it is well researched and well put together. So it's a really good starting place if teachers and students are looking for Connecticut topics and more of an understanding on Connecticut topics. You can go to any of these pages. Topics is a really good one because it breaks it down by a lot of different things, and you can go to any of these. It gives you a brief introduction to the topic. It gives you articles that are related to the topic, and then it gives you more places to go and other cultural institutions or websites to use that our writers have used to build out their articles and do their research. So there's a lot here for students to mine for materials and a really good starting point if they're doing research on, again, a local history project, a history day project, any of those ideas, they can kind of come here. And a lot of the work that we've done with our lesson plans also kind of connect back to Connecticut history and the articles that we're doing. That quick facts page that we have actually lives here on connecticuthistory.org. So you can go back there, start there, and then go to our articles and go to our lesson plans. The presentation happens on multiple screens. So my contact information on here, as well as my partner Misa Drew in our education department, is on here. QR codes to teach it and Connecticut history are on this page. The links are in the chat and will be posted with the video, I'm sure. And that's what we have for you. We're looking forward to growing this out. We're looking at doing professional development opportunities around the state. We have a few booked. We've had good responses from them. We're happy to bring this out. We're also happy to help make connections between cultural institutions in your community and your classroom. So if you have any questions, or if you want to see something expanded or changed or updated or anything for our education resources, we're kind of looking for that engagement because there's two of us we know what we know. And my background is I was a classroom teacher in New Haven, and I've been in museum education since 2010, so 16 years now in the museum education world sphere. So I've been a teacher for over 20 years technically. And so, we know what we know, but we don't know your kids. So how do we reach your kids? And how do we reach your audiences is we need more feedback from that. So please help us get there. Um, Happy to answer any questions and review anything.
So bravo.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Just bravo. I mean, I'm at the museum. I don't have kids, but my intention was to be able to send this on to the teachers that we do know that could do this. And you know what? The best thing about this does not have a sunset.
No,
You know what I mean? So this was really an investment in some good historical education in the state because it's all over the place. So I'm not without irony. Really, bravo. Great job.
thank you.
You know.
Well, this is Steve. If I could just add one thing. Um, the beauty to me of the Teach It, many of the Teach It activities, is that they're inquiry based. So how cool is that? This site that Teach It gives you for all those grades, inquiry activities for history at the state and local level. And from my perspective, how cool is that? So